Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this meditation session. Let us take a moment to arrive in front of our device this morning. We can do that by taking 3 deep breaths. Every time we inhale, we try to refresh our attention. Every time we exhale, we relax. Now let us take a moment to take a look at our posture. Ideally sitting on the floor. If you're sitting on the chair, it's perfectly fine. Just make sure you're not leaning against the support of the chair and not leaning forward either. If you're sitting on the chair, also make sure your feet are touching the floor, both flat on the floor. That would be the best. And if you are sitting on the floor, the best would be in a full lotus posture. So that means with each foot on top of the opposite leg. That might be a little bit challenging, so make sure you're not pushing yourself, you're not forcing your body. You can simply sit cross-legged, or you can sit in a half lotus. You can also sit Burmese style with one leg in front of the other. All these are perfectly fine. The most important, whether you are on the floor or on a chair, is for your body to be upright, for your back to be straight. You can imagine that there is a string pulling from the crown of your head, keeping your body upright. But at the same time, don't be stiff, be loosely straight. The back is straight, but it's at the same time relaxed. In fact, the shoulders are even and relaxed going down. The hands, traditionally we place them in the meditation mudra. So you have your right hand on top of the left. The two thumbs are slightly touching, and this rests at your lap. The neck is aligned with the spine. You can very slightly tilt the head forward, but not much. A tip of the ancient masters is to place your tongue just behind your upper teeth towards the upper palate. This helps to reduce the production of saliva while you meditate. Finally, when it comes to the posture, it is recommended to keep the eyes slightly opened, not to close them completely, to allow some light to enter and keep you alert. You can rest your gaze just 1 or 2 meters in front of you and 45 degrees cast down, just gazing in the space in front of you without actually paying attention to whatever is appearing in front of our eyes, but focusing on the mind, focusing on the mental consciousness. Now that we have the posture right, the most important being the back to be straight, for the body to be upright. Now that we have the meditation posture, let us try to calm the mind a little bit before meditating on Bodhicitta, the awakening mind. Before doing that, let us meditate for a few minutes on shamatha, calm abiding, by focusing on any object you are familiar with for this meditation. If you don't have an object that you are familiar with, what I would recommend, what I would suggest is to Take as an object breathing sensation at the entrance of the nostrils. As you breathe in, as you breathe out, notice and focus, place all your attention at the entrance of the nostrils and see how it feels. Perhaps when you breathe in, it's a little bit cooler there. When you breathe out, a little bit warmer. And while doing that, pay attention to the two errors of meditation, the two main ways we get distracted while we meditate. The first one is called mental excitement. Basically being distracted with thoughts, mostly about the past or the future, not remaining on your object, being distracted. The second way we tend to get distracted is called lethargy or dullness. The mind starts to sink, tend to fall asleep, and therefore we also lose our object of meditation. So while being mindful of these two errors, make sure to apply the antidotes to these two errors. The two antidotes are called introspection and mindfulness. These two are mental factors. While you are placing all your attention to your object of meditation, in the background your mind is checking, introspecting. Am I actually meditating, or am I distracted with thoughts or with lethargy, with dullness, with laxity? And the moment I notice that my mind is distracted, that my attention has gone from my object of meditation, then I make use of the second antidote of mindfulness. The role of mindfulness is to bring the mind back onto the object of meditation and make sure it stays there. Mindfulness is also called non-forgetfulness. The analogy is that if you have a pet dog at home and the dog runs away, you notice that the dog is gone. This is introspection, and mindfulness is bringing the dog back home. And you can also imagine him putting him on a leash and tying the leash against a pillar, for example, to make sure the dog stays at home. So this is what we are trying to do with our mind, focusing on one object, paying attention that the mind stays on the object, and the moment we notice it is gone from the object of meditation, we bring the mind back immediately, making sure it stays there. So we'll do this for just 3 minutes, and then we will meditate on Bodhicitta. gently come out of the meditation. And now that our minds are hopefully a bit more focused, let us contemplate, let us try to generate the mind of awakening, Bodhicitta in Sanskrit. So for this we'll quickly go through the sevenfold cause and effect method to generate bodhicitta. The preliminary step for this method is to generate equanimity. For this you can visualize surrounding you all your friends and families, starting with your father on your right, your mother on the left, all your female family members on your left, and all your female friends on your left, and all your male family members and friends on your right. You can visualize in front of you those people who make you agitated, people who disturb your mind. If you don't have around you people who make you agitated, you can think of politicians, for example, create conflicts around the world and so forth. And then all around these people, you can also visualize the countless beings that we don't know, the people we haven't met. You can think also of all the animals and other beings that you don't consider as friend or enemy, all the so-called neutral people. And now let us contemplate how the three categories, the so-called friends, so-called enemies, and so-called neutral people, all of them, without exception, want to be happy and want to avoid suffering. All of them want to have pleasant experiences and want to avoid unpleasant experiences. So absolutely everything they do and say is motivated by the same wish that we all share, wishing to be happy, wishing not to suffer. This is true for ourselves, our friends, our enemies, and all the strangers, all the neutral people. We all have this common motivation, this common intention behind every action we do, behind every word we say. We can also contemplate that in countless past lives, since time immemorial, all beings, whether now we consider them as friends or enemies or strangers, absolutely all of them in countless past lives, have equally benefited us and have equally harmed us. So there is no actual logic, there is no actual valid reason to say, to discriminate between friends, enemies, and strangers. All beings are equal in wanting happiness, wanting to avoid suffering, and all beings are equal in their relationship to us in countless past lives, having all of them benefited us, having all of them harmed us in the past. So try to generate this sense of impartiality, equanimity towards all beings. Then we enter the first of the 7 steps to generate bodhicitta. So this first step is remembering that all sentient beings have been our mother. So this means considering rebirth, considering reincarnation. Before this present life, each and every one of us had countless previous lives. Since time immemorial, we have been taking rebirth again and again and again and again in what is called samsara, cyclic existence. Sometimes we are reborn as a human, sometimes as an animal, and sometimes other forms of rebirth as well. And since there are countless sentient beings, we have had countless lives, it is only mathematical to infer that all sentient beings at one point or the other must have been our mother. If you have a difficult relationship with your mother in this life, you can, instead of the mother, you can think of the person who took care of you as a baby, as a young child, as a young adult even. So you can think of your auntie or your uncle or your grandmother, your grandfather, your brother, your sister, the person, basically your caregiver in this life as you were growing up. The next step is to remember the kindness of that person, the kindness of your mother or the kindness of your caregiver. So for this we can remember the kindness that they have given us in this very life. The mother, for example, bearing in her womb, bearing you for 9 months in the womb, and all the difficulties, that might come along with that, and the pain of delivering. And His Holiness often reminds us, that when we are just born, a baby that just got out of the womb, if that baby doesn't receive affection, that baby will not survive. So even the kindness, at the time of birth, the person who took us in their arms gave us love and affection. Then as we were growing up, feeding us, waking up at night when we were crying to calm us down, cleaning our body, so kind. You can also think as you were a child, all the kindness you have received as a teenager, as a young adult, from your caregivers or your parents. Try to be grateful for all the kindness you received. Another way to look at it is to look into past lives. An example from Lama Zopa Rinpoche is to think that many times in the past I have been reborn as a bird in the nest, totally helpless, totally depending on the mother, cannot fly yet, so cannot leave from the nest. So the mother bird had to go hunting, for small insects and so forth to feed me. So by doing that, she accumulated the negative karma of killing, taking the life of others just to feed me, and she will have to bear the consequences of that in the future. So how incredibly kind, just out of her wish for me, to get fed, not to be starving, out of her affection. She went out killing just for my benefit. How incredibly kind. Another example, we can look, in the wildlife. For example, if you look at National Geographic Channel, or these days maybe if you look at the YouTube videos, you can see, for example, in the wild, like zebras, for example, if you look at a mother and a baby zebra in the wilderness, and they get attacked by a lioness or a tigress, let's say. The mother, she will not hesitate 1 second. You can see that on video. The mother doesn't hesitate 1 second to sacrifice her life, to protect the baby. She will put herself between the tigress or the lioness and the baby. She will give her life if necessary so that the baby can run away and remain alive. On some videos you can see that she's actually successful, like with her back legs, she pushes the predator away. But in some videos she actually sacrifices her life just to save the baby. How incredibly kind. So when we remember the kindness of our parents, of our caregivers in that way, naturally, we come to the next step, which is repaying the kindness that we have received. So of course, if we consider rebirth, reincarnation, we also have been, the caregiver and the mother of all the beings in the past. So we have already repaid that type of kindness, but the kindness we are talking about, the kindness that we want to repay, is to establish all mother sentient beings in a lasting happiness, in an ultimate goal of liberation from samsara and achievement of awakening. We want our mother sentient beings to be totally happy. So it's not just merely about, helping them, not merely about feeding them, taking care of them, but wanting them to be perfectly happy. The next step is seeing all beings in the light of great affection, considering all sentient beings as near and dear to your heart. So not only, as the preliminary step, which is equanimity, not only considering all sentient beings as equal, but also considering all of them as so near and dear to your heart. Because of the kindness they have given you in the past as your mother's caregivers, because of your immense wish to repay that kindness, your immense wish to establish them in lasting happiness. See how near and dear that brings them to you. And our near and dear ones, we don't want them to suffer. We don't want them to have any unpleasant experience in their lives. So this is the next step, which is great compassion, Ningje in Tibetan. This wish for all sentient beings to be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. You know, we can see around us so many people are sick. So many people are suffering from poverty. Those of us who live here in Delhi, we can clearly see, on the street and imagine the pain. India this year recorded the most intense and longest heat wave in history. Can you imagine living on the street with this heat wave and this very warm and humid monsoon that followed? How unbearable that must be. We can also think, of all the people who live in countries that are at war. Imagine the suffering there. How unbearable. Let us try to generate the wish for all beings to be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. The causes being self-grasping ignorance and the self-cherishing mind. We fail to perceive reality as it is. We see everything so objectively real, so inherently out there, independent from the mind. This is self-grasping ignorance. We have the impression that phenomena exist in and of themselves. Because of that, we have a strong sense of a solid I, me, truly existent self. And we feel this self is more important than others. We cherish it more than anything. Everything we do, everything we say is for the sake of this self that we feel so objectively real. And because we cherish this self so much, we engage in so many negative actions, such as killing, stealing, lying, and so on and so forth, gossiping, harsh words. And because of these non-virtuous actions, because of these negative actions, we constantly accumulate negative karmas, and negative karmas inevitably ripen in the form of suffering, in the form of unpleasant experiences. Because of this self-grasping ignorance, this apprehension that all phenomena exist truly, even the good actions that we do, such as helping others, practicing generosity, and so forth, these actions accumulate positive karma, but which is contaminated by this self-grasping ignorance, meaning that it will ripen in the form of mundane happiness, in the form of pleasant experiences within samsara, meaning that we have no freedom. We cannot choose when we will experience pleasure, when we will experience pain. You can imagine this morning, at any time your fan, your electricity might stop. No fan, no AC. Suddenly, you feel warm, experience something unpleasant. Similarly, a good karma that you have accumulated in the past might ripen. Suddenly, a friend might come with some sweets for you, and you will have a pleasant experience. We have no control. We cannot choose pleasant or unpleasant. We cannot choose what is happening to us. This lack of control is precisely what samsara is. So let us generate a wish for all beings to be free from samsara, for all beings to be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. Then let us try to generate a sense of responsibility. At the moment, I have this human life that is endowed with so many freedoms and richnesses. I'm born as a human with all my mental, physical faculties. I live in a world where the Buddha has appeared, the Buddha taught, the teachings of the Buddha are still very much available to this day with internet. There are many followers, there are many supporters of the followers. So I have the unique opportunity to work on my mind, to transform my mind, to liberate myself, to free myself from the mental afflictions as well as the cognitive obscurations, in order to benefit sentient beings perfectly in the best way. So let us try to generate a sense of responsibility. I have the potential, I have the opportunity in this life to work on my mind in order to be of best benefit to others who don't have this fortune. Most people are struggling, surviving. They don't have opportunity to look inwards, or even if they do, they are not interested, too busy, too distracted with worldly pleasures. So for them, because they have benefited me so greatly in the past, it is my responsibility to help them, considering I have this opportunity now that they don't have. Try to generate this altruistic intention, thinking, I myself will free all sentient beings from suffering and the causes of suffering. Now, how can I do that? I myself am deluded. I myself am trapped in samsara. I myself am under the influence of the self-grasping ignorance and the self-cherishing mind. So first, I must myself eliminate these two. I must again and again see reality as it is, empty of objective existence, empty of intrinsic, solid, inherent existence, to purify my mind from all the afflictions, anger, jealousy, pride, and so forth, as well as all the cognitive obscurations, all the imprints, and achieve the state of omniscience, achieve the state of a Buddha, the state of awakening that will allow me to guide sentient beings perfectly, to guide them unmistakably, knowing with this omniscience how, to guide them in the best way possible. So this is the last step, Bodhicitta. Let us try to give rise to this most beautiful mind in the universe by thinking, may I become a Buddha for the benefit of all my dear mother sentient beings. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Sorry I went a little bit over time. And very happy that Tushita is opening its doors again tomorrow. Actually, tomorrow we have our first in-person event after the summer break, and especially after the end of June, Tushita got completely flooded. The same day that the airport, domestic airport roof collapsed. There was a very heavy rain in Delhi, and the meditation hall of Tushita got completely flooded. So for the whole of July, we have been very busy with contractors coming, to change the floors of Tushita and waterproof the floors as well as the walls as best as possible, which is quite tricky because Tushita is located in a basement. So now we are still busy. For the last week, we are trying to rearrange everything, and we are in the last stretch now, because tomorrow at 5 p.m. we are welcoming the most venerable Geshe Dorji Damdul, who will teach at Tushita as well as online. You can join us on this same Zoom if you cannot make it in person tomorrow. And Geshe-la will teach on the 3 principal aspects of the path, which is a short text composed by Lama Tsongkhapa, which describes, renunciation, the wish to be free from samsara, Bodhicitta, that we just meditated on now, as well as the wisdom of emptiness. Lama Tsongkhapa describes what they are, explains how, to engage in them, and as well as knowing the measure, that we have generated these 3 minds. So most welcome to join us tomorrow for this incredible teaching by Geshe-la, which will be our first in-person event this season. And then we'll have many more events. So, of course, as usual, the morning meditation, which will be online, as well as some sessions, I think, on Monday and Thursday. Every Monday, Thursday, you might also join in person at 9 a.m. as well as online. And then the other days as well online only. And then Monday evening, we have a puja. We'll do the Medicine Buddha puja, which is very beneficial for people who experience obstacles, people who experience sickness, as well as praying for the people who recently passed away. Very beneficial for that. And on Tuesday, we'll start a new series of meditation, Tuesday evening. So yeah, our evening events are always at 6:30 p.m., Monday, Tuesday. So Tuesday, we'll start a new series of meditations. Every week, we'll meditate for about 1 hour in the evening on what is called the 16 guidelines for life, which are 16 different topics. We'll explore 16 qualities we will try to develop. So this will be over the next 16 weeks, over the next 4 months, 1 topic every week. And then every Saturday for the upcoming weeks, we'll have Deepesh Thakkar teaching. The next 3 weeks, he will teach at 11:30 a.m. on Saturdays, and he will teach on the 4 seals of the Buddha's teachings, and how to find meaning in difficult times, in challenging times. So this is the program for next week. You're most welcome to join us from tomorrow onwards. Have a beautiful day. See you very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.